Welcome, new here or back again. Listen to the strings of rest that make everything else fade away. Hey, my name is Kriga, meaning fighter in Norwegian. My life has been made of ups and downs, just like yours. When I fall, I rise. I've fought wars nobody could see, carried weight I couldn't name. But in the chaos, in the noise, I found rest. Through the melodies of my father's birthplace and the deep fjords of the north, in those ancient strings and waters, I found peace, and I'm here to walk you there. And if by the end of this video you've found some peace, some rest, let me know with a simple like, a thumbs up, or drop a comment. It tells others searching that they're not alone, that someone else found rest here too. Remember to subscribe so the next video can find you when it's ready. More gentle sounds, more soothing scenes, more safe places where peace is waiting. Think of someone whose mind won't stop racing from morning until night, whose body stays tense no matter how hard they try to relax, who feels completely alone in the dark, scrolling through screens that only make things worse. Send this to them quietly. It might save their night, and the next day the way it saved yours, the way it once saved mine.
Living on the edge. Living on the edge that holds. The morning arrives before light does, in that suspended hour when the world exists in shades of blue and gray. You wake without an alarm, your body remembering this rhythm from countless mornings before. The house is silent except for the small sounds of settling wood and the gentle tick of the hallway clock that belonged to your grandmother. You lie still for a moment, feeling the weight of the quilt your mother stitched years ago, each square a different fabric with its own history. The window shows only darkness and the faint silhouette of pine branches, but you know dawn is approaching by the quality of the silence, by the way the air feels different just before the world begins to wake. Your dog lifts her head from her bed in the corner. You hear the soft rustle of blankets, the quiet thump of her tail against the floor. She knows this routine as well as you do, perhaps better. These early morning walks belong to both of you. A ritual observed in darkness and dawn, in rain and snow, and the rare clear mornings when the sky turns pink and gold. You rise slowly, your feet finding the cool wooden floor. The boards creak in familiar places as you move through the dim room, pulling on the clothes you laid out the night before. Soft wool socks, worn jeans, a sweater that smells faintly of wood smoke and fresh air. Each movement is unhurried, quiet, mindful of the sleeping house around you. In the kitchen, you don't turn on the overhead light. Instead, you switch on the small lamp above the sink, and it casts a warm, contained glow that doesn't disturb the peace of the early hour. Your dog appears beside you, patient and alert, her eyes bright in the dim light. You run your hand over her head, feeling the softness of her ears, the warmth of her skull beneath your palm. Her leash hangs by the door, next to your jacket and boots. You take it down, and the small metallic sound of the clasp makes her entire body wag with quiet excitement. She doesn't bark. She learned long ago that these morning walks begin in silence, in the reverent hush before the day starts making noise. You open the door, and the cold air meets you immediately, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth, the mineral smell of the nearby fjord, though it's hidden by darkness and distance. The sky is beginning to shift from black to deep blue, the first hint that somewhere beyond the mountains, the sun is preparing its slow ascent. Your breath forms small clouds in the cold air. Your dog's breath does the same, and for a moment, you both stand on the threshold, feeling the temperature, sensing the weather. It's cold, but not bitter. The kind of cold that sharpens the senses rather than numbing them. You step outside and close the door quietly behind you. The world is yours. Empty streets, silent houses, nothing moving except you and your dog and the slow lightening of the sky. Your footsteps on the gravel path are soft and rhythmic, and your dog's paws make a lighter sound, a gentle padding that accompanies your own steps like a counter melody. You walk without purpose or direction, letting your dog lead. She moves with her nose to the ground, reading the night's messages left by other animals, by the wind, by the rain that fell days ago. You follow, your hands in your pockets, your breath steady and even. The path leads away from the houses, toward the edge of the village where the forest begins. Here, the darkness is deeper, the trees forming darker shapes against the slowly lightening sky. You can hear the stream before you see it, the musical sound of water moving over stones, eternal and constant, the same sound your grandfather heard when he walked these paths as a boy. You stop by the stream, and your dog stops too, drinking from the cold, clear water. You stand and listen, just listen. The water, your breathing, the small sounds of the forest waking, a bird's first tentative note, the rustle of something small moving through the undergrowth, the creak of a branch settling. There's no phone in your pocket, no music in your ears, just the sound of the world as it is, unfiltered and immediate. You realize you're standing on the edge of something, the edge of the village and the forest, the edge of night and day, the edge of sleeping and waking, and yet there's no sense of falling, only of being held by this moment, by this place, by the accumulated weight of all the mornings that came before this one. Your dog finishes drinking and looks up at you, water dripping from her chin. Her eyes ask if you're ready to continue. You nod, even though she can barely see you in the dim light, and together you walk on. The path climbs slightly, following the stream upward toward its source somewhere in the mountains. You've walked this way hundreds of times, know every stone and root, every place where the path narrows or widens, where ice forms first in winter and lingers longest in spring. The light is changing now, growing stronger, though the sun hasn't yet cleared the mountains. The sky shifts from deep blue to a lighter blue, then begins to warm toward gray gold. The first direct rays haven't arrived, but their promise illuminates the clouds, turning them pink and orange along their undersides. You reach a place where the path opens onto a small clearing, a flat area where the grass grows thick and soft. Your dog moves ahead, and you pause to watch her. She's sniffing intently at something, speaking slowly. You don't call her back, don't hurry her. Instead, you let her choose the pace, the direction, the duration. These moments belong to her, her curiosity, her experience of the world, through scent and sound that you can only imagine. While she explores, you turn slowly, looking at the familiar landscape emerging from darkness. The mountains are visible now, their peaks catching the first direct sunlight, glowing warm against the cool shadows that still fill the valleys. Below, far below, you can just make out the dark ribbon of the fjord, still and reflective, holding the sky's changing colors. You breathe in time with the morning, matching your rhythm to the slow awakening around you. In, hold, out. In, hold, out. Your breath and the world's breath, synchronized and peaceful. Your dog returns to you, satisfied with her investigation, ready to continue. You walk together, back toward the village, taking a different path that loops around and approaches from another angle. The light is stronger now, true dawn, and you can see the details that were hidden before. The texture of tree bark, the pattern of frost on fallen leaves, the small movements of birds beginning their morning activities. As you near the houses again, you hear the first sounds of human waking, a door closing somewhere, the distant sound of a car starting. But these sounds don't intrude. They're part of the pattern, part of the rhythm of this place, waking to another day. You arrive home just as the sun finally clears the mountains, flooding the valley with golden light. The house looks warm and welcoming, smoke beginning to rise from chimneys up and down the street as people start their fires, begin their days. Inside, you remove your boots and jacket slowly, quietly. Your dog goes to her water bowl and drinks deeply, then settles on her bed with a contented sigh. You stand in the kitchen for a moment, still feeling the morning's peace wrapped around you like a cloak. The kettle sits on the stove, an old copper one that belonged to your grandmother, its surface worn smooth and slightly dented from decades of use. You feel it at the sink, the water drumming against the copper interior, changing pitch as the kettle fills. The sound is familiar, comforting, part of the morning's ritual. You place the kettle on the stove and light the gas. The flame catches with a soft whoosh, blue and steady. You adjust it until it's just right, not too high, not too low, and the kettle sits centered over it, beginning its slow journey toward boiling. While you wait, you lean against the counter and simply exist in this moment. The kitchen is warming from the stove's heat. Outside the window, the world is fully light now, the sun illuminating the frost that covers everything, making the ordinary landscape sparkle and shine. The kettle begins to whisper, not the full whistle yet, but the preliminary sounds of water heating, of steam beginning to form. You listen to it the way you listened to the stream earlier, attending to its voice, to the way the sound builds and changes. You've prepared everything the night before, so the teapot sits ready on the counter, a ceramic pot with a pattern of blue flowers, slightly chipped at the spout, but still perfectly functional. You've measured loose tea leaves into it, a black tea blend with bergamot, smoky and fragrant. The scent rises from the pot even before the water arrives, a promise of warmth and comfort. The kettle's whisper becomes a murmur, then a stronger sound, building toward its full voice. You watch the steam begin to curl from the spout, visible in the slanting morning light. The clouds, and just before it reaches a full whistle, you lift it from the flame, silencing it, preserving the morning's quiet. You pour the water over the tea leaves, watching them swirl and dance in the clear water, watching the water begin to darken, to take on color and character. The steam rises in soft clouds, carrying the scent of bergamot and earth, of mourning and ritual, and countless cups of tea that came before this one. You place the lid on the teapot and cover it with the knitted cozy your aunt made years ago. Cream-colored wool with a simple cable pattern, still soft and warm despite years of use. Now the tea needs time to steep, to become itself fully. While you wait, you open the kitchen window just a few inches. Cold air flows in immediately, mixing with the warm air of the kitchen, creating currents you can feel on your skin. The air smells clean and sharp, carrying scents from outside. Wood smoke from a neighbor's chimney, the mineral scent of frost, the green smell of pine. You stand at the window and let the air move around you, breathing it in, feeling it cool your face and hands. This small act, opening a window, letting the outside in, feels significant somehow, a conscious choice to remain connected to the world beyond these walls. The house begins to wake around you. You hear footsteps on the floor above, your mother rising to begin her day. The old pipes tick and murmur as she runs water in the bathroom. These sounds are as familiar as your own breathing, the acoustic signature of home and family, of shared space and shared life. You pour tea into a cup, another piece inherited from your grandmother, part of a set that's now scattered across the family, each person keeping the cups they love best. This one is white with a delicate gold rim, slightly crazed with age, but still beautiful, still perfectly suited to holding tea. The first sip is always the best, hot but not scalding, fragrant and slightly bitter, perfect without sugar or milk. You cup your hands around the warm ceramic and carry it to the kitchen table, settling into the chair that faces the window. Your mother appears, wrapped in her robe, her hair still loose around her shoulders. She doesn't speak, just touches your shoulder gently as she passes, a good morning expressed in touch rather than words. She pours her own tea and joins you at the table, and together you sit in comfortable silence, watching the morning light strengthen and spread across the valley. This is how your mornings often begin, quiet, slow, unhurried, a walk in darkness that becomes dawn, tea prepared with attention, silent companionship that requires no words, the edge of sleep and waking, of night and day, crossed gently and with intention, without rush or anxiety. Later, after your mother has returned upstairs to dress and you finish your tea, you begin the day's work. Today is washing day, not an automatic process, but something done by hand with attention and care. You gather the clothes from the basket in the bathroom, carrying them downstairs to the small washing room off the kitchen. The washing machine here is old, simple, requiring that you fill it with water heated on the stove, that you add soap measured by hand, that you pay attention to temperature and time. You begin heating water in the large pot kept for this purpose. The pot is enormous, blackened on the outside from years of sitting over flame, shining and clean on the inside. You fill it twice from the tap, setting it on the stove over a high flame, waiting for it to heat. While the water heats, you sort piece of clothing, making decisions about its care. The heavy wool sweaters go in one pile, lighter cotton shirts in another, delicate items in a third. The water begins to steam, and you test it with your finger, hot but not boiling, the right temperature for washing. You pour it carefully into the machine, filling it halfway, then add the soap. The soap is something your mother makes herself, a simple recipe passed down from her grandmother. Grated Castile soap dissolved in hot water, mixed with washing soda and borax. It smells clean and pure, nothing artificial or harsh. You add the first load of washing, cotton shirts and pillowcases, and watch them sink into the soapy water. The machine agitates them gently, swishing them back and forth, working the soap through the fibers. You don't walk away. Instead, you stay and watch, listening to the rhythmic sound of water and fabric, the simple machinery doing its work. When the washing cycle completes, you drain the water and refill the machine with cool rinse water, adding the clothes back, letting them swish clean. Then another rinse, just to be sure, until the water runs clear and soapless. The wringing is done by hand, twisting each piece of clothing to remove as much water as possible. Your hands grow cold and red from the wet fabric, but the work feels good, feels real and tangible and useful. Each piece is wrung until it stops dripping, then placed in the basket to carry outside. The clothesline runs behind the house, strung between two sturdy posts that your grandfather installed decades ago. The line is still strong, still reliable, holding weight and weather without complaint. You carry the basket outside, feeling the shock of cold air after the warm washing room, and begin hanging the clothes. Each piece is shaken first, snapped to remove wrinkles and smooth the fabric, then pinned to the line with wooden clothespins worn smooth from use. The wet clothes are heavy and cold in your hands, but you work steadily, methodically, creating a line of white and colored shapes that move in the breeze. The wind is gentle but constant, coming up from the fjord below, carrying moisture and cold and the promise of afternoon rain. The clothes will dry anyway, slowly, taking on the fresh smell of cold air and wind, becoming crisp and slightly stiff before you bring them in. You stand for a moment after hanging the last piece, your hands cold and damp, your breath visible in the air. The line of washing moves and billows, creating patterns of shadow and light on the ground. There's something satisfying about this, about labor that produces visible, tangible results, about work that connects you to generations of people who've done this same task in this same place. Inside, you warm your hands at the sink, running hot water over your fingers until feeling returns in tingles and pins. You dry them carefully, then rub them with the salve your mother makes, beeswax and olive oil infused with calendula, thick and soothing, smelling of honey and flowers. The morning is advancing now, moving toward midday. Your mother has come downstairs, fully dressed, her hair braided and pinned up. She's planning to bake bread today, and the kitchen soon fills with the sounds and smells of that process. She begins by making the sponge, mixing yeast with warm water and a little honey, adding a cup of flour, creating a thick batter that will sit and bubble and develop flavor before becoming dough. You watch her work, learning through observation the small details that can't quite be captured in a recipe, the exact temperature of the water, the consistency of the mixture. The way she stirs with confidence, but without hurrying. While the sponge sits and activates, you help her prepare the other ingredients. Flour is measured into a large ceramic bowl. White flour and whole wheat mixed together for bread that's hearty but not heavy. Salt is measured into a small dish. Butter is set out to soften. Everything is laid out, ready, organized. The sponge begins to bubble and foam, becoming alive with yeast, smelling sweet and earthy and full of potential. Your mother checks it, nods with satisfaction, and begins building the dough, adding flour and salt, kneading everything together. The kneading is where the magic happens, where separate ingredients become one unified thing. Your mother's hands work the dough with practice rhythm. Push, fold, turn. Push, fold, turn. The dough transforms under her hands, becoming smooth and elastic, developing the structure that will allow it to rise and hold shape. You ask if you can try, and she steps aside, letting you take over. The dough is warm and alive under your hands, slightly sticky, responding to pressure and movement. You imitate her rhythm, finding your own pace, feeling the dough begin to cooperate, to behave as it should. Feel that, your mother asks, pressing her finger gently into the dough. It springs back slowly, leaving a small depression that gradually fills. That's when you know it's ready, when it has memory, when it responds to touch. You need a bit more, then help her shape the dough into a ball and place it in an oil bowl, turning it to coat all sides. She covers it with a clean cloth and sets it in a warm spot near the stove to rise. Now we wait, she says, washing her hands at the sink. The yeast does its work, and we do ours. Your work while the bread rises is to prepare lunch. Something simple, soup from the vegetables stored in the root cellar, bread from yesterday's baking, cheese from the farm down the valley. You descend the stairs to the root cellar, opening the heavy door that seals in the cool, earthy air. The cellar is dark and smells of soil and storage, of potatoes and onions and the carrots packed in sand. You select what you need by feel as much as sight. Carrots and parsnips, onions and garlic, a small rutabaga. Back in the kitchen, you begin the careful work of preparing vegetables. The carrots are scrubbed under cool water, their skins coming clean under the brush, revealing bright orange flesh beneath the dirt. The parsnips are peeled, their sweet, pale bodies emerging from the skin. The onions are peeled and chopped, making your eyes water despite years of practice. The soup begins simply, a pot on the stove, butter melting, onions added to soften and sweeten. The smell is immediate and comforting, the foundational scent of countless soups and stews, the building block of flavor. You add the other vegetables, stirring them in the butter, letting them begin to cook. Then water, bay leaves, thyme from the dried bunches hanging in the pantry, salt and pepper. The pot is covered and left to simmer, to transform separate ingredients into unified sustenance. While the soup cooks, you tidy the kitchen, washing dishes as you go, wiping counters, maintaining order. Your dog appears, having slept through the morning's activities, now awake and hoping for a walk or food or attention. You provide attention, sitting on the floor beside her, running your hands through her fur, feeling her lean into your touch with contentment. surface smooth and domed under the cloth. Your mother returns to it, punching it down gently, releasing the air, kneading it briefly before shaping it into loaves. She has 3 loaf pans, blackened with age and use, seasoned so well that bread releases from them perfectly every time. She shapes the dough, places each loaf in its pan, covers them again for the second rise. The soup is ready, thick and fragrant, the vegetables tender, the broth rich with their flavors. You ladle it into bowls, carrying them to the table where your mother has set out bread and butter, cheese and pickles. You eat together, the 2 of you, talking quietly about small things, the progress of the washing on the line, the bread rising on the counter, plans for the afternoon. The conversation is easy, unhurried, punctuated by comfortable silences. After lunch, the bread goes into the oven. Your mother has heated it carefully, testing the temperature with her hand, adjusting the flame until it's just right. The loaves go in and the waiting begins. That anxious, hopeful period when bread transforms from pale dough to golden, crusty sustenance. While the bread bakes, filling the house with its incredible scent, you bring in the washing from the line. The clothes are mostly dry, stiff from the wind and cold, smelling fresh and clean and like the outdoors. You bring them in armload by armload, piling them in the basket, carrying them to the warm kitchen. The folding is done at the table, and this is when the magic of laundry reveals itself. The clothes are still warm from being in the kitchen, having absorbed heat from the room and the baking bread. You pick up each piece while it's still holding that warmth. A sheet, a shirt, a pillowcase, and fold it carefully, smoothing out wrinkles, creating neat rectangles and squares. The warmth in your hands is comforting, the fabric soft and clean. Each piece is different. The heavy weight of a wool sweater, the crisp texture of a cotton shirt, the smooth coolness of a pillowcase. You fold methodically, creating stacks organized by type and owner, finding rhythm and meditation in the repetitive motion. Your mother joins you, and together you work through the basket. Neither of you speaks much. The work provides its own quiet companionship. Occasionally, she'll comment on something. This sheet is wearing thin. We'll need to turn it soon. Or, your father's sweater came clean beautifully. But mostly, there's just the sound of fabric moving, being folded, being stacked. The bread announces its readiness by scent and sound. The smell intensifies, becomes irresistible, and you can hear the crusts crackling slightly as the loaves finish their transformation. Your mother removes them from the oven, turning them out of their pans onto a cooling rack. The loaves are perfect, golden brown, the crusts hard and singing as they cool, the internal crumb visible where the bread has split slightly along the top. She cuts a slice from one loaf, the baker's privilege to taste the bread while it's still warm. She spreads it with butter that melts immediately into the hot bread and offers half to you. The bread is perfect, crusty outside, soft and tender inside, the flavor complex and satisfying. You eat it slowly, savoring every bite, grateful for this simple, perfect food. The afternoon stretches before you, full of small possibilities. Your mother suggests a walk and you agree, always happy for a reason to be outside, to move through the landscape you love. You dress warmly, layers of wool and flannel, a gloves. Your dog appears immediately, knowing the signs, her tail wagging with excitement. The three of you set out together, no particular destination in mind, just the desire to be out, to breathe cold air, to see what the day offers. The path you choose leads through the village and beyond, toward the cliff edge that defines this landscape. You've walked this way countless times, know every turn and landmark, but familiarity doesn't breed boredom. Instead, it deepens connection. Each walk adding another layer to your relationship with this place. You walk without speaking, your mother and you and the dog moving together in comfortable synchronization. Your footsteps on the frozen ground are rhythmic and steady. Your breathing creates small clouds in the cold air. The dog ranges ahead and circles back, following scents, investigating, always returning to check that you're still there, still following. The path climbs gradually, and as you ascend, the view opens. First, the village below, smoke rising from chimneys, then the fjord beyond, dark and still, and reflecting the gray sky. Higher still, and the mountains across the water become visible, their peaks white with snow, their slopes dark with forest. You pause at a place where a large flat rock provides a natural resting spot. You've sat here before, many times, in all seasons and weathers. Today, the rock is cold, but you brush snow from its surface and sit anyway, your mother beside you, the dog at your feet. From here, you can see the edge, the place where the land simply stops, where solid ground gives way to air and space. It's not far, 100 meters perhaps, but it's far enough to feel safe, close enough to appreciate the drama of the landscape. Far below, 600 meters down, Lysefjorden stretches in both directions, its dark waters holding the reflections of mountains and sky. Your great-great-grandfather built the house exactly where he did for a reason, your mother says, her voice quiet in the still air, close enough to see this, to feel the edge, but far enough to be safe, to build a life. You've heard this story before, but you don't mind hearing it again. Stories like this are meant to be repeated, each telling adding nuance and meaning. He came up here from Jørpeland, she continues, her breath visible in the cold air. That's where his family lived, down in the village by the water. But he wanted something different, not easier, just different. He wanted to live where he could see the whole fjord, where he could understand the landscape as a whole, rather than just his small piece of it. She pauses, looking out at the view. People in Jørpeland thought he was mad. Why live up here in the wind and cold when you could live down in the village, protected, with neighbors close by? But he knew what he wanted. He said the edge taught lessons that the valley couldn't teach. You look out at Jørpeland, visible far below at the fjord's edge, a cluster of buildings, boats in the harbor, roads threading between houses. From this height, it looks small and contained, safe and ordinary. You understand why your great-great-grandfather chose differently, chose the challenge and drama of this height, this exposure, this proximity to the edge. He walked to Jørpeland every week, your mother says, for supplies, for church, for connection. It was his anchor to the community, his reminder that even choosing to live apart, you're still connected to others. He'd walk down in the morning, spend the day, walk back up in the evening. 4 hours of walking every week, his whole life. The path to Jørpeland is still now. Most drive, taking the road that winds down the mountainside, cutting the journey to 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. But you've walked it occasionally, following your great-great-grandfather's footsteps, understanding through your body what he understood through his, that the journey matters as much as the destination, that the effort of descent and ascent teaches something valuable. And once a month, he'd go to Stavanger, she adds. The big city, he called it, though it wasn't so big then. He'd take the ferry from Jørpeland, spend the day buying what couldn't be bought locally, seeing what the wider world offered, then return. He said Stavanger reminded him why he lived up here, that cities have their place and their purpose, but they weren't his place, weren't his purpose. You've been to Stavanger many times. It's still the nearest city, larger now than it was then, more modern and bustling, but the relationship remains the same. It's a place to visit, not to live. A place that provides what can't be found locally, but doesn't call to you the way this high, exposed, beautiful place does. I think he was right, your mother continues. There's something about living here, on the edge of everything, that makes you grateful for what holds, for what lasts. The cliff doesn't crumble, the house doesn't fall, and you learn to build your life the same way, solid and careful and meant to endure. She stands, brushing snow from her coat. He said there's a legend about this rock, about Preikestolen, that it will stand forever, falling only when 7 brothers marry 7 sisters from the same parish. An event so unlikely it's meant never to happen. He liked that, the idea that some things are built to last, that stability isn't an accident, but something fundamental, something you can trust. You stand too, looking one more time at the edge, at the drop, at the vast space of air and distance. The edge doesn't frighten you. It never has. Instead, it clarifies something, reminds you of what matters, what endures. You continue walking, following the path as it circles around, approaching the edge from another angle before turning back toward home. Your mother walks ahead slightly, and you let yourself fall behind, wanting a moment alone with the landscape, with your thoughts. The wind is stronger here, coming up from the fjord, carrying the scent of water and distance. You stop walking and just stand, letting the wind move around you, through you. You close your eyes and listen, the wind you're breathing, the small sounds of your mother's footsteps ahead, and your dog snuffling investigations nearby. You stand on the edge of so many things, the edge of the cliff, yes, but also the edge of generations, born into a family with deep roots here, carrying forward traditions and stories and ways of being, the edge of seasons, autumn sliding toward winter, the world preparing for cold and darkness and the long wait for spring, the edge of your own life, young still, but old enough to understand that choices are approaching, that soon you'll have to decide whether to stay here or venture out, to maintain these patterns or create new ones. But standing here in this moment, none of that feels urgent or frightening. The edge holds. It has held for 10,000 years, will hold for 10,000 more. And you, standing on this edge, are held too, by the land, by the family, by the accumulated weight of all the lives that have been lived here, all the choices that have brought you to this moment. You open your eyes and continue walking, rejoining your mother, continuing home. The descent back to the house brings its own pleasures. The light is changing as afternoon advances toward evening, becoming richer and more golden. The familiar landmarks appear in reverse order. The birch grove, the stream crossing, the first houses of the village. By the time you arrive home, your cheeks are cold and your legs are pleasantly tired. Inside, the house wraps you in warmth and the lingering scent of bread. You remove your layers slowly, hanging them to dry, lining up your boots by the door. The evening routine begins. Your father will be home soon from his work in Jørpeland. He makes a drive daily, down in the morning, back in the evening, maintaining the connection to the village that your great-great-grandfather maintained on foot. Your sister is already home, having finished her studies at the school in the village, retreating to her room to read or draw or simply rest. You help your mother prepare dinner, working together in the warm kitchen. Tonight, it's fish, cod bought fresh from the harbor in Jørpeland, brought home by your father yesterday. The fish is beautiful, its flesh white and firm, its eyes still clear, proof of freshness. Your mother shows you how to prepare it, scaling if needed, though this one's already scaled, then cutting it into portions, seasoning simply with salt and pepper, a squeeze of lemon. The fish will be pan-fried in butter, served with boiled potatoes and vegetables, maybe a sauce of cream and dill. While she prepares the fish, you tend to the potatoes, washing, peeling, cutting them into even pieces that will cook uniformly. The work is meditative, your hands knowing what to do, your mind free to wander or be still as it chooses. Your father arrives as you're setting the potatoes to boil, bringing cold air and the day's news with him. He washes at the sink, scrubbing his hands thoroughly, then joins you at the table with a cup of coffee, tired but content. He tells you about his day, the work he's been doing, repairing fishing equipment for one of the boats in Jørpeland's harbor. The fisherman's name is Olaf, and he's been a client for years, a friend even longer. The conversation, as your father recounts it, range from the technical details of the repair to larger questions about the fishing industry, about changes in the fjord, about the ways the world is transforming, even in this remote, stable place. Olaf says the ferry to Stavanger is getting more crowded. Your father mentions more tourists wanting to visit, to see Preikestolen, to photograph the cliff. He says it's good for business, but strange too, to have so many strangers passing through. Tourism has grown here over the years. People coming from all over the world to stand at the edge of the famous cliff, to take photographs, to experience the drama of the landscape. You've seen them on your walks, groups with guides, cameras and hiking poles, speaking languages you don't understand. They marvel at the view, at the drop, at the rock that has stood for millennia. But they don't live with it the way you do, don't understand it as anything more than a spectacular sight. I told him we're lucky, your father continues, living up here away from the main paths. We get to see the tourists come and go, but we don't have to share our daily lives with them. We can still walk in peace, still feel like this place is ours. It's true, the main tourist path to Preikestolen starts from a different direction, doesn't pass by your house. You can choose to encounter the visitors or avoid them, can participate in the tourism economy or remain separate from it. It's a balance, appreciating what tourism brings to the region economically, while maintaining your own relationship with the landscape, untouched by commercialization. Dinner comes together, the fish golden and perfect, the potatoes tender, the vegetables bright with color. Your sister joins you at the table, and the four of you eat together, the conversation continuing to flow around observations and stories, small moments and larger reflections. After dinner, your father suggests a fire in the sitting room. It's cold enough tonight, and the ritual of building and tending a fire is something your family enjoys, something that marks the transition from day to evening, from productivity to rest. You help him carry wood from the pile beside the door, birch and oak, carefully selected from the woodshed, dry and ready to burn. The firewood is something your family cuts and splits each summer, another annual ritual, another way of preparing for winter, of maintaining self-sufficiency. The fire is built carefully, crumpled newspaper at the base, kindling arranged in a loose teepee above it, larger pieces of split wood placed strategically to catch and sustain the flame. Your father lights the paper, and the flame catches, grows, begins its work of transformation. The family gathers in the sitting room as the fire establishes itself. Your mother brings knitting. She's working on a sweater for your sister, the pattern complex, requiring attention. Your father settles with the book. Your sister curls up on the sofa with her sketchbook, drawing something from imagination, her pencil moving steadily across the page. You sit by the window, looking out at the darkness. The stars are beginning to appear, bright points in the vast black sky. Somewhere out there, invisible in the darkness, the edge waits, constant and unchanging, a permanent feature of this landscape, this life. Your dog settles beside you, her head on your lap, her breathing slow and peaceful. You stroke her fur absently, your mind quiet, content to simply be here in this moment, surrounded by family and warmth and the small, perfect rituals of daily life. Time passes unmeasured, the fire burns down, and your father adds more wood. Your mother's needles click steadily. Your sister's pencil scratches across paper. These sounds create a kind of music, a domestic symphony that speaks of home and safety and continuity. Later, much later, when the fire has burned to embers and drowsiness has crept over everyone, the family disperses to bed. You climb the stairs with your dog, both of you ready for sleep, for the quiet darkness of your room. In bed, under the familiar weight of quilts, you think about the day, the morning walk in darkness, the washing and bread baking, the afternoon walk to the edge, the dinner with family, the quiet evening by the fire. Small things, ordinary things, but things that create a life worth living. A life built on the edge of everything yet solid and sure. You think about your great-great-grandfather walking down to Jørpeland each week, walking to the ferry for his monthly trips to Stavanger. You think about how he chose this place, this difficult, beautiful, exposed place, and built a life that has lasted generations, that continues in you, in your family, in the daily practices and rituals that connect you to the past and carry you into the future. The edge holds, you think, as sleep begins to claim you. It has always held, it will always hold, and you, living on that edge, are held too. The next morning, arise with snow, not the gentle dusting of previous days, but real snow, falling thick and steady, transforming the world into something muffled and white. You softness. Your morning walk with your dog is transformed by the snow. The familiar paths are hidden, making navigation more challenging, more engaging. Your dog bounds through the snow, delighted, her nose leaving small furrows as she investigates scents buried beneath the white. You walk more slowly than usual, placing your feet carefully, feeling the snow compress beneath your boots with each step. The world is reduced to shades of white and gray, the white of fresh snow, the gray of tree trunks, and the sky above. Everything simplified, purified. The stream is partially frozen, ice forming along its edges, the water still running in the center, making a sound that seems louder in the snow-muffled world. You stop to watch it, to see the way ice and water interact, the constant negotiation between freezing and flowing. Back home, you and your mother spend the morning on indoor work. The snow makes outdoor tasks difficult, but there's always work to be done inside. Mending clothes, organizing cupboards, preparing food for the coming days. Your mother decides to make lefse, the traditional Norwegian flatbread that takes time and patience, but produces something special, something that connects you to heritage and history. She's been making lefse since she was a girl, learning from her mother, who learned from hers, the skill passing down through generations of women in this family. The process begins with potatoes, always potatoes, boiled and riced and cooled. You help prepare them, working the ricer until your hands ache, creating the light, fluffy foundation that will become dough. The ricing is meditative work, repetitive, but requiring attention. Each potato must be processed completely, no lumps remaining, the texture perfectly consistent. You work side by side with your mother, and occasionally she checks your work, nods approval, offers small corrections when needed. When the potatoes are ready and cooled, the dough making begins. Flour and butter, salt and sugar, worked into the potatoes until everything comes together into a soft, pliable dough. Your mother's hands move with practiced confidence, knowing exactly how much to knead, when to stop. The dough is divided into small portions, each one rolled into a ball. These balls sit on a floured board, waiting their turn. The rolling begins, taking each ball and working it with the left's rolling pin, a specially grooved pin that helps create the characteristic texture, rolling until the dough is thin and round, or nearly round, perfection not being the point. You try your hand at rolling, and the first few attempts are clumsy. The circles aren't very circular, the thickness uneven, but your mother is patient, encouraging, showing you again how to rotate and roll, how to maintain even pressure, how to feel when the dough is ready. Gradually, you improve. The circles become more circular, the thickness more consistent. It's satisfying, this learning, this gradual acquisition of skill through practice and attention. The cooking is done on a special griddle, heated just right, not too hot, or the left burns, not too cool, or it doesn't cook properly. Your mother tests each piece, flipping it with a long, flat stick, watching for the characteristic bubbles and brown spots that indicate doneness. The kitchen fills with the smell of cooking potatoes and flour, a scent that's homely and comforting, that speaks of tradition and care. The finished lefts are stacked between clean towels to stay soft, creating a growing pile of golden rounds that will be eaten with butter and sugar, rolled up and savored. By midday, the lefse making is complete. Your hands are tired from rolling, your back slightly sore from leaning over the counter, but there's deep satisfaction in the work, in the tangible results stacked and ready. Lunch is simple. Some of the fresh lefse spread with butter while still warm, along with cheese and sliced apples. The lefse is tender and delicious, the butter melting into it, the slight sweetness of the potato dough, perfect with the salty butter. After lunch, the snow shows no sign of stopping. Your father, who stayed home from work today because of the weather, suggests preparing for the possibility of being snowed in. It's unlikely. The snow rarely gets that heavy, but it's wise to be prepared, and the preparation itself is part of living here, part of respecting the weather and the landscape. You help him check supplies. The firewood is plentiful, the food stores adequate, the generator fuel and ready if power fails. These tasks are routine but important, small acts of responsibility that ensure safety and comfort, regardless of what the weather brings. In the late afternoon, when the snow finally begins to ease, you and your father bundle up and go outside to clear paths, from the house to the road, from the house to the woodshed, from the house to the barn where tools and equipment are stored. The work is hard, the snow heavy and wet, but you work together in companionable silence, your shovels moving in rhythm. The physical labor feels good after a morning of detailed, delicate work. Your muscles engage differently, your breathing deepens, your body warms despite the cold air. By the time the paths are clear, you're tired but energized, the good tiredness that comes from useful physical work. That evening, your mother announces that tomorrow you'll all go to Stavanger, a rare family trip to the city, planned for weeks, something to look forward to. The snow is expected to clear overnight, and the roads should be passable by morning. The prospect of Stavanger brings a flutter of excitement. It's not that you don't love your life here, your quiet routines, your connection to this place. But Stavanger represents something different. Variety, stimulation, the chance to see and experience things that aren't available in the village or up here on the mountain. That night, you help prepare for the trip. Your mother makes a list of things to buy, errands to run. Your father checks the car, making sure it's ready for the drive. Your sister chatters about the bookshop she wants to visit, the art supplies she hopes to find. You fall asleep thinking about the city, about the contrast between your quiet life here on the edge and the bustle and noise of Stavanger streets and shops. Both have their place. Both have value. The trip tomorrow will remind you of that, will help you appreciate both the excitement of the city and the peace of home. Morning arrives clear and bright, the storm having passed in the night. The world is transformed by snow, everything white and clean and sparkling in the sun, but the roads have been plowed. You can hear the scrape and rumble of the plow trucks working their way through the valley, and travel is possible. After a quick breakfast, the family piles into the car. It's a tight fit. Your parents in front, you and your sister in back. Everyone bundled in winter coats that take up extra space. But the car is warm, and there's a sense of adventure, of occasion. Your father drives carefully down the mountain road, taking the curve slowly, mindful of ice beneath the snow. The descent offers offers views of Lysefjorden spread below, the water dark against the white landscape, the mountains on the far shore, dramatic and beautiful. In Jørpeland, you join the line of cars waiting for the ferry. The ferry runs regularly, carrying people and cars across the water to Stavanger. But there's always a wait. You don't mind. The waiting is part of the journey. Time to talk and observe and anticipate. When your turn comes, you drive onto the ferry, parking in the careful choreography directed by the ferry workers. Then everyone gets out, climbing the stairs to the passenger deck, where you can watch the water and the landscape slip by. The ferry ride is smooth and peaceful. The fjord is calm today, barely rippled by the gentle wind. You stand at the railing with your sister, looking back at Jørpeland receding behind you, then forward to where Stavanger waits ahead. The crossing takes about 40 minutes. You use the time to talk with your sister, to hear about her studies, her friends, her dreams. She's thinking about university, about maybe studying in Stavanger, living in the city during the week and coming home on weekends. The idea makes you both excited and sad. Excited for her opportunities, sad about the family changing, spreading out. But that's the nature of edges, you think. Sometimes you cross them, sometimes you stay. Both choices are valid. Both have their costs and their rewards. Stavanger appears gradually as the ferry approaches. First, the outlying buildings, then the harbor with its boats and cranes, then the city proper, spreading up the hillside. It's not huge by global standards, but compared to Jørpeland, compared to your quiet mountain home, it feels vast and busy and full of energy. You disembark and drive into the city, your father navigating the streets with practiced ease. He knows Stavanger well from monthly trips over the years, knows where to park, how to move efficiently through the urban landscape. The city is overwhelming at first. So many people, so much noise, so much happening simultaneously. Cars and buses, shops and restaurants, people hurrying in all directions with their own urgent purposes. After the quiet of home, it's almost too much, almost disorienting. But gradually you adjust, finding rhythm in the chaos, appreciating the energy and variety. Your mother leads the way to the market, where vendors sell fresh fish and vegetables, cheese and bread, things that are available in Jørpeland, but more varied here, more abundant. You wander through the market, taking in the sights and smells, fish on ice, their scales catching the light, vegetables in bright piles, bakers calling out their specialties. Your mother moves through with purpose, selecting items, negotiating prices, filling her bags with supplies that will last for weeks. Next is the fabric store, where your mother needs thread and buttons, some fabric for a project she's planning. The store is overwhelming. Bolts of fabric in every color and pattern, walls lined with supplies, the air smelling of cotton and dye. While your mother shops, you and your sister are free to explore. You wander down the street, looking in shop windows, watching people, absorbing the city's energy. You find a bookshop and duck inside, grateful for the quiet after the street's noise. The shop is crammed with books, new and used, Norwegian and English, fiction and non-fiction, shelves reaching to the ceiling and stacked so full that books spill over, creating piles on tables and floors. Your sister heads straight for the art section, while you wander more randomly, pulling books from shelves, reading first pages or random passages, feeling the weight and texture of different volumes. You find a book about Norwegian folk tales and legends, beautifully illustrated, and you flip through it slowly, recognizing some stories, discovering others. There's a section on Preikestolen, the legend of the 7 brothers and 7 sisters, illustrated with a dramatic drawing of the cliff edge. You buy the book, wanting to bring it home, to add it to the family's small library. The shopkeeper wraps it carefully in brown paper, tying it with string, and you tuck it under your arm, pleased with the purchase. Outside, you reunite with your parents and continue the day's errands. The hardware store for your father, who needs specific tools. The pharmacy for various items your mother has on her list. The post office to mail a package to relatives in another part of Norway. By early afternoon, everyone is ready for lunch. You find a small cafe tucked down a side street, warm and inviting, smelling of coffee and fresh bread. The menu is simple: soups and sandwiches, pastries and coffee. And you order, finding a table by the window where you can watch the street outside while you eat. The food is good, hearty and warming, different from home cooking, but satisfying in its own way. You eat slowly, savoring the flavors, listening to your family's conversation flow around you. Your father talks about possibly buying a new tool he saw, debating whether it's necessary or just desirable. Your mother mentions the quality of the fabric she found, already planning in her mind how she'll use it. Your sister bubbles with excitement about the art supplies she bought, eager to get home and start experimenting. After lunch, there's time for one more stop. Your father wants to visit an old friend who lives in Stavanger, someone he knew as a young man before he moved back to Jørpeland, before he married your mother and settled into the life he has now. The friend lives in an apartment building near the harbor, and you all climb the stairs to his 3rd floor flat. He welcomes you warmly, clearly delighted by the unexpected visit. And soon the adults are deep in conversation, while you and your sister explore the apartment's small balcony, looking out at the harbor and the water beyond. From here, you can see the ferry terminal, can watch the boats coming and going, carrying people and cars between the city and the smaller communities around the fjord. It's strange to think of your own crossing this morning, to imagine how you looked from here. Just another car, another family, part of the constant flow. The visit stretches longer than planned, time slipping away in conversation and coffee, in stories and laughter. But eventually, your father glances at his watch and realizes the afternoon is advancing, that you need to leave soon to catch the ferry home. Goodbyes are said, promises made to visit again soon, and then you're back in the car, navigating through the city streets toward the ferry terminal. The ferry ride back is different from the morning crossing, quieter, more contemplative. You're tired from the day, saturated with stimulation, ready for the quiet of home. The sun is beginning to descend toward the horizon, the light turning golden and warm, making the water shine. You stand at the railing again, watching Stavanger recede, watching Jørpeland approach. Your sister stands beside you, and neither of you speaks, just sharing the moment, the transition from city to home. The crossing seems shorter on the return, or maybe you're just less aware of time passing. tired observation. Before you know it, the ferry is docking and you're driving off, back onto solid ground. The drive up the mountain feels like a journey back in time, leaving the present and its stimulation, returning to something older and slower and more rooted. The familiar landmarks appear, the turn where you can first see the house, the stand of pines that marks the final approach, the gate that leads to your driveway. Home. The word feels weighted with meaning, with relief and gladness. The car stops and everyone gets out, stretching, gathering bags and packages. Inside, the house is cold. The fire has gone out while you were away, but it's still home, still familiar and welcoming. Your father immediately sets to work, building a new fire, while your mother unpacks the day's purchases, putting things away, restoring order. You help where you can, but mostly you're just grateful to be back, to be surrounded by the quiet and peace of this place. The city was exciting, stimulating, but this is where you belong, where your roots go deep, where the edge holds steady and sure. Dinner that night is cobbled together from leftovers and the fresh items bought in Stavanger. A bread from the market bakery, cheese from a vendor your mother particularly likes, some fish that will be cooked tomorrow but is sampled raw tonight, just a small piece to taste its quality. The conversation around the table is full of observations about the day, what each person saw and experienced, what surprised or delighted or disappointed. Your sister talks about the art supplies she bought, demonstrating the new pencils, the quality of the paper. Your father describes the tool he decided not to buy, explaining his reasoning, satisfied with his restraint. You mention the book you bought, showing the illustration of Preikestolen, reading aloud the legend of the 7 brothers and 7 sisters. Your mother listens, nodding. Your great-great-grandfather loved that story, she says. He used to say it meant the cliff was eternal, that some things are built to last no matter what. After dinner, everyone is tired. The day's activities and travel catching up. The fire burns comfortably, warming the room, and gradually the family disperses to quiet activities, reading, knitting, drawing, just sitting and staring into the flames. You find yourself at the window again, looking out at the darkness, at the stars beginning to appear. Somewhere out there, the edge waits. The same edge that your great-great-grandfather knew, that has stood for 10,000 years, that will stand for 10,000 more. The day in Stavanger was good, valuable, enriching. But this, standing in your home, looking out at the familiar darkness, feeling the solid ground beneath your feet, this is where you're meant to be, at least for now, at least for this moment. The edge holds, it always holds, and you, living on that edge, are held to by family, by tradition, by the accumulated weight of all the lives that have been lived here, all the choices that have created this moment. You go to bed tired but content, the book from Stavanger on your bedside table, ready to be read tomorrow or the next day, or whenever the mood strikes. For now, there's just sleep, just rest, just the familiar comfort of your bed, and the darkness, and the knowledge that tomorrow will bring another day of small rituals and quiet work, another day of living on the edge without falling, another day of being held by what endures.